Gun violence is a preventable public health tragedy affecting communities across the United States, including ours. Firearm injuries are now the leading cause of death among children and teens ages 1 to 19. At the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, we must prosecute cases of violence after they occur and deliver effective accountability for people who have harmed others. But that is not enough. I recently spoke to the family of a man who was shot and killed, and another man who was shot and critically injured. I had those conversations because we were prosecuting the young people who were responsible for that harm. But nothing that we do as prosecutors will bring back that loved one, nor will we repair the injuries, both physical and psychological, that were inflicted on that day. But there is something that we can do as prosecutors to prevent that gun violence from ever happening in the first place. That is why we have worked to create an expansion pilot of youth group violence intervention with partners from Hennepin County Safe Communities, the police departments of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, and community-based violence intervention organizations with technical assistance from the National Network for Safe Communities at John Jay College. Research suggests that homicides and gun violence are often concentrated in very small groups. According to the National Network for Safe Communities, often group members are only about 0.5% of a city's population, but can be involved in as much as 70% of its homicide and gun violence. Those at the highest risk of perpetrating gun violence are often the same as those who face the highest risk of becoming a shooting victim. The homicide rate for those in that population may be about 100 times above the national average. Focused deterrent strategies like YGVI, Youth Group Violence Intervention, are effective because they address the actions of these small groups that are most responsible for driving serious violence through partnerships between community, social service providers, and law enforcement acting together. I am grateful to have several of our partners here today for this announcement. This initiative is not possible without everyone here, and several others who are not able to be here today. Those joining me today are Sergeant Sean Fricke, head of the juvenile unit in the Brooklyn Brooklyn Park Police Department, Sasha Cotton, who is the executive director of the National Network for Safe Communities, Jen White, Hennepin County Attorney's Office YGVI project lead and director of community affairs, Muhammad Abdul Ahad, executive director of Touch Outreach, and Hennepin County Commissioner Jeff Lundy. Group violence intervention is an internationally recognized model to reduce gun violence and address the intervention needs of youth and their families. GVI has a proven track record of reducing incidents of gun violence. The GVI expansion we are announcing today complements an initiative developed by the City of Minneapolis and Hennepin County Juvenile Probation that focused on young people who were already on supervised probation. This expansion pilot meets a critical need for services at an earlier point by creating a pathway for intervention from law enforcement referrals of young people who are not already on probation. Our law enforcement partners know the young people living in and around this violence in their communities. Now we have a pathway to intervene earlier and effectively to reduce violence and support the lives of young people in our communities. Commissioner Lundy?
I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak on this. I think, we looked at last summer, I think there was a lot of complaining, a lot of finger pointing in the challenges in front of us. And I think this summer you're seeing the fruits of hard work over the winter to really prepare a joint response so that we're all working together, collaborating, trying to really tackle these challenges that are before us. There is no one step that's going to get us from here to where we want to be, but it's going to be lots of small steps. And I think that this program has the potential to be a significant step We all know that a lot of the gun violence crimes it's a small number. And so this work of this group will be able to focus on that small number and really start to tackle that efforts from whether it's the county attorney's office, law enforcement, community partners, to really get at the root cause of this, because I think our goals are all the same, which is what we can do to lower violence in our communities and make people feel safe at the end of the day. So I'm looking forward to the results of this. I think it's a good plan. I think that we are excited for the possibilities. Thank you.
Sergeant Fricky.
Sergeant Sean Fricky with the Brooklyn Park Police Department. Brooklyn Park is excited to get on board this program. Traditionally, police officers come in contact with these youth repeated times, and a lot of times the courts are lagging behind. The YGVI is giving us direct access to get ahead of this and get our community partners involved to get in front of the youth and get intervention services to the youth and their families, hopefully before a tragedy occurs in our community. So on behalf of the county attorney and the other youth outreach groups and partnerships with Hennepin County, we're grateful to be involved with this program.
Good afternoon, Sasha Cotton, Executive Director with the National Network for Safe Communities at John Jay College. We are incredibly excited to be in partnership with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the work of YGVI and Hennepin County. As most folks know, the Twin Cities are my home and my hometown, and I'm excited to be back here doing really good and important preventative work on the ground to keep people safe, alive, and free in the Twin Cities, and more importantly, our young people and their families. We recognize that when young people are involved in acts of violence, particularly gun violence, it creates a different sense of chaos in community. And we need to be doing everything that we can to address that issue. And we're so grateful to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office for taking this matter seriously and reaching out to our office to help provide technical assistance and support to use the evidence and the science that addresses violence through the lens of prevention. We recognize that young people who are involved with gun violence are more likely to go into the adult system as they mature. And a project like GVI, with a focus on young people, we believe will have a significant impact on addressing those issues early on and working with the families of those most impacted. As stated before, we know that most violence is driven by a very small number of individuals, and this strategy is designed to work with those very small number of people who are driving violence in our community and provide them with the resources, supports, and accountability to move away from the violence and put their lives on a different trajectory. So we look forward to this work in Hennepin County, and we'll be a partner for as long as we are needed. Thank you.
My name is Jen White. I am Director of Community Affairs in the County Attorney's Office and will be the project manager for the YGVI initiative. The YGVI process involves various system partners, as you see here, and our office has been uniquely positioned to be the hub that has brought many partners across jurisdictions to the table. We have a data-informed process in place to receive referrals and then work with our credible messengers to deliver the message of YGVI and make the offer of support to young people and their families. Generally, the support has always come at the back end of the system after an individual is already involved in the system. And we want to change that and intervene before they are involved in the criminal justice system to help them and their families change their trajectory. Lastly, I wanted to stress that we cannot do this work alone. The collaborations are critical, and this model brings together all important stakeholders, system partners, law enforcement, service providers, and community with the goal of keeping our young people safe, alive, and free, and that is at the heart of this initiative. We're very proud to be involved and excited to start on this journey as a project manager.
How you doing? My name is Mohammed Abdul Ahad. I'm the Executive Director for Touch Outreach, and that stands for Teaching Our Urban Communities Hope. I'm excited at this partnership and this new expansion with the county, with YGVI. Me being somebody that's from the community that's been impacted dearly through by gun violence, indirectly and directly. So I'm just excited for this partnership to be able to give these young people new pathways and offering them resources before they get into some of these situations that they're getting into without even knowing where they can lead them from being involved with some of these activities out here. So I'm just really excited with the partnership and, just ready to get to work. But yeah, I've been doing this work for the past few years now. Started off with GVI. Now I'm just excited with the youth YGVI, being able to target individuals that's been involved with carjackings, you know, a lot of the shootings that's been going on in the community from the city side now, you know, being, sorry about that, excuse me, I just got so much going on. You know, yeah, I'm just excited to get this going here, y'all, you know, so I'm just ready to get to work, you know, that's it. So, but yeah, but I really appreciate this. So.
I'll say that Mohammed is already about the work. He's already been doing a lot of work in the community. And we just had our kickoff meeting today. So we have already started this program. And now I'll open it up for questions.
Just wondering, can you kind of paint a picture of how does this, what's the practical application? Like, how does it work? How do you find the people that you want to offer this to? How does it get offered? And kind of just walk us through that so we can visualize it.
I'll call one of our experts here, Jen White, to answer that.
So the process is we receive referrals from our law enforcement partners who are, you know, identifying youth in our community that could be benefit from the services. So they fill out a referral form, and we have a meeting where we bring together all of the partners across jurisdictions, both system and community, where we review the criteria to ensure that those youth are a good fit. That is called our custom notification review meeting. And then after the meeting is over, our team will meet with the outreach providers, identify youth who will be assigned to each provider, and then we make that offer of support to each family. It is voluntary, so youth and their families do have to decide that they want to participate, and then that support begins from there if they decide they would like to take the services.
And by outreach, what would that be, for example?
So either by phone or meeting in person with the youth and their families so that they can hear the message of GVI, understand what type of support is provided to help their youth and their family.
And I'm just trying to clarify, like,
Sure.
so then what would be offered to them? Like, what would they do then? Is it like a counseling situation?
Oh,
or activities for them
sure,
to do?
yep, so mentorship, jobs, activities, you know, spaces they can be with caring adults that are safe for them. Are there things that I'm missing, Mohammed?
Yeah, that's my expertise right there. Yeah, so from the outreach side of it, we offer one-on-one mentorship, different programs, financial literacy, you know, one-on-one mental health awareness, you know, different things of that nature, and also get involved with community, you know, let them have ownership with community, you know, like just say like community programs as far as like community events, you know, just having them get back and give back and just get involved with what's going on in community, you know, investing in that way. So that's some of the things that we're doing right now as we speak. So I just think it's just giving them that opportunity to be themselves and, you know, having a listening ear for a lot of these youth, because a lot of times they don't really get somebody right there that they can open up to and listen to their needs, so you can be able to respond and be the person that they need you to be at that time. So, I mean, this work is very critical, you know, and sometimes I don't get no sleep, you know, with some of the individuals that I'm building these relationships with. You know, like I said, it's almost like being a superhero. You know, we're uncles, we're fathers, we're brothers. You know, we're just a friend, you know, and I think that's very important that, you know, when that phone rings is to pick it up. You know, some of these kids just need someone that they can, you know, help guide them down the right path instead of, you know, them getting involved with a lot of the different things that's going on in their community. Because, you know, if you don't spend time with them and show them anything different, they're going to fall right into what's going on, what they see in their environment. So. But that's one of the things some of the things that we do as far as like outreach is just that one-on-one support, and then also providing a safe space for them so they can come and get off the streets and just, you know, do other things, so.
I can add a little context to that question. I think it's really important as we think about the expansion of this, and nationally, the national network is looking at expansion into youth services. So GVI has historically been focused on adult, folks who need supports that are adults. And this new iteration of it in a couple of sites that we're working with is really focused on full services for families, which I think is a different pivot. As we're working with young people, that means we have to be working with their parents or whomever they're living with to make sure that the needs of the entire family are being met. We recognize that there's going to be a range of needs that could be as high risk as full-on relocation, and helping those families find a different housing arrangement that moves them away from the environment that might be very dangerous, all the way down to the things that Mohammed and others have talked about, which is that one-to-one support, those connections to caring adults. We know by the research how important it is for young people to have folks that care about them outside of their family network, and that can play an instrumental difference in their propensity towards violence. And so it is a wide range of things, and we tend to call that the big small stuff, recognizing that sometimes those things don't cost a lot of money, but they cost time, they cost interest, and they cost credibility, right? That you have to have folks from the community who these kids can look to as role models, who they feel inspired by. And that's why it has been so critically important to identify the right resource providers with this strategy.
Can you give us some examples of?
Can I just want to add to that, and we'll get right to young people, like everybody else, are more accountable to relationships, not rules. And so building those relationships is what Mohammed's work is all about. And I wanted to also say, I mentioned we had a kickoff call today. As prosecutors, we are not a part of that. That's law enforcement and our providers. This is not about building cases against young people, because there has to be a level of trust here. It has to be about those relationships. I just wanted to say that. Karen, what was your question?
Can you give us examples of who might be referred, what would qualify for a referral?
So, excuse me, looking at the research, we've identified some criteria points that we'll be looking for with young people who would meet the criteria here in the Hennepin County project. Primarily, we're looking at young people who have had contact with law enforcement that doesn't meet the criteria for prosecution, but who clearly are involved in lifestyle and choices that might lead them or have already led them to being involved with gun violence. We're looking at young people who may have a sibling who's already been adjudicated delinquent for gun violence. So really looking at this as an entry point for services for young people who are having those encounters with the system that don't meet the established criteria from law enforcement or from a prosecutor for charging, but who clearly need an intervention and some supports to make some changes in their lives towards safety and away from the criminal legal system.
The fact that it's voluntary, how do you know that anybody's gonna wanna be part of this? I mean, kids can be very rebellious in the most day.
Absolutely. And again, that really speaks to why the relationship piece is so important and why the agencies that provide this resource have to be credible. Ultimately, it has to be a choice, right? If we don't make it an option, if it's court ordered, then we're talking about entering more kids into the legal system. And obviously, this is not to say that there won't be kids who are adjudicated delinquent because they've already done something so serious that it's warranted. But for those kids who don't meet that criteria, right now we don't have much to offer them. And being able to offer them and their families something feels very important. What we've seen is that there does seem to be preliminarily a desire from parents and family members when they feel like they're at a point of no return with their kids, right? Sometimes their kids have not done something so egregious that, or have not been caught for something so egregious that the legal system can step in, but they know that they're at a crossroads and that they need support and help. And having mentors, particularly men of color who come from these communities, who have historical connections in these communities, can be a really appealing opportunity for the families, and that can work towards the advantage of getting those kids involved.
Can you talk about the sort of nuts and bolts of this? I mean, how many outreach workers are we gonna have? How much does this cost? Who's paying for it? And how many kids will be involved in the program?
To follow up on, we'll go right to follow up on your question too, Karen. There is already a process or a pathway for young people who are on probation supervision. So those young people who are already in the system can be referred, and probation has been doing that. That's the project I talked about with the city of Minneapolis. So that's already happening. This is an expansion of a pathway that never would have existed, because if we have a prosecutable case, it comes into the system and we prosecute it. These are for those cases that are not, we don't have enough evidence to prosecute it, but we know those young people are at risk. So what?
Sorry, so just like basics, how many outreach workers will we have out there? How much does this cost? Who's paying for it, and how many kids will be helped?
So the Hennepin County Attorney's Office is partnered with Safe Communities in Hennepin County. We have both contributed money, I think it's $250,000 each. We have contracted with Safe Community or Safe Network, Sasha's organization from John Jay, for technical assistance, and we have paid for that contract. We are doing this because we know you have to have fidelity to the model that's been built. And we know we need technical assistance because this is an emerging area as well. We have contracted or helped contract and pay for the contracts of 3 providers that will be able to, or will have referrals to. And, you know, we're always willing to adjust, depending on how this works. If we need to add more, build our capacity, we will do that. We expect this program to be successful and to reduce gun violence.
Do you know what capacity you might have for how many kids? And is it boys and girls, I assume?
And can you name those community partners, these incredible messengers?
Sure, yeah, absolutely, Reg. I'm sorry, so the first question, so each team, so they're teams, so it's not just an individual provider, they all have teams, and that is Touch Outreach here, CEO, Janelle Jackson is the Executive Director of CEO, and Change Affects Youth, David Carson is another provider, and they each all have respective teams. We're not quite sure at this point, you know, how many youth we expect to serve, but they all do have capacity because they have several staff that they work with on their teams.
Yeah, and I would just, if I could just sidebar. You know, that's part of the technical assistance is really helping the providers to gauge that need ahead of time. So we'll be participating in those custom notification prep meetings and really looking at supply and demand so that we can forecast for what they might need as far as added capacity. So we'll start from a level playing field, but certainly have the room to gear up as the work continues.
And what's really different to this program than GBI is the fact that you're really gonna attack what the family needs. Can you talk about that, just what kind of support? I know you talked about some families may need to move away. What about counseling, jobs, employment? I mean, there's a lot that these families are dealing with when they're dealing with these young people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, as someone who worked in juvenile probation at the beginning of my career, one of the things that we've always noticed is that a lot of the times young people don't get the supportive services that you're talking about until they're adjudicated delinquent. And then all of a sudden the floodgates open up for mental health services and school counseling and family supports and all of these interventions that if they had been applied earlier might have not led to this kid being in the legal system. And so I think we're looking at that protocol of resources and trying to make them readily available through a YGVI model. What we like to say is we'll throw whatever we can at this to reduce kids from being involved with gun violence. So it's going to be innovative and it's going to be on a case-by-case basis based on what families come to us saying that they need. We know there are some standard things around housing, educational resources. A lot of the times parents simply do not have the know-how, the resources, and the skills to go into schools and advocate for what their children need. The mentors that they're going to be supplied with through YGVI can help to navigate those school systems and identify the best educational environment for kids to be successful. They're going to be helping young people find jobs. They're going to be helping families find counseling, and we will be sourcing the other needs as they come to us.
Is Minneapolis Police not taking part in this?
We have certainly been working with Minneapolis Police. We had a call in today. They were invited, and my understanding was that they were going to come, but they did not. We will continue to partner with them. We'll continue to partner with all of our law enforcement partners because one of the reasons we had talked about doing the Brooklyns and Minneapolis is we know there are no geographical boundaries for violence. Kids who live in Minneapolis can go to Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and vice versa. So we will continue to do outreach for Minneapolis Police. We very much want to partner with them in those areas where we know there's gun violence.
It sounds like you were expecting them to be a part of it.
They replied to the invitation to the meeting, and you would have to ask them why they weren't able to make it today.
How long, once a youth is referred and the family accepts services, how long will those services continue for the child and the family?
As a matter of best practice, we don't leave a cliff, particularly with young people. The services will be in place for as long as that family needs them. Generally speaking, we anticipate that about a year of intensive case management services should help that family to transition to more stability. But we leave the door open, recognizing that as circumstances change, a person's vulnerability towards violence can change. So if an incident where they lose a loved one to violence or they become unhoused or some challenges, present themselves, we want to keep the door for services open, even if we feel like they had originally been stable, to ensure that they don't return to a lifestyle of violence because of chaos.
I also wanted to add that, this is like the entry point where we have critical care. We have people right there at that critical moment. But in partnership is with the county being really a safety net. So those services don't disappear because we hopefully that the family's moving through and getting the services that the county offers, that we've got that critical care, we've got identification, we've got some of those identifications. But as they move into other places, the county's still here as a partner with this program to continue those services. So I don't ever look at these services as ending. It's a conveyor belt. We're trying to get people at that moment when they're ready to get them connected to services, not just from a youth, but also their family. You find youth in crisis, you often find a family in crisis. And so I think that, that service, there is no end date. There is no end of moment. This is really just the start of what we hope is a good process.
One more question?
I was just gonna ask about Hennepin County Sheriff, because they have been a big part of your auto theft initiative.
Yes.
Are they also providing referrals in this program?
They have an abundance of intelligence that is really helpful. And we are partnering with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office because they play an important role in identifying who the young people are that are at risk. So yes. Thank you so much.